Yeah. We. Oh, you're live. You're owning.
Actually feeling okay right now too.
You're gonna have to poop mid cast.
That wasn't what was going on this weekend.
You're
You're gonna
right.
have to vomit mid cast. Also, it'd be funny if you had to poop mid cast.
Yeah, we had a joke this weekend that like if I did play, like watch us win the tournament, and then like in the winners interview, I would just have to like vomit.
Into the trophy.
Yeah, just like into the trophy. Yeah, that'd be great. I am worried about like having to do a winners interview or doing really well in Baltimore because the Super Bowl is that night, and hopefully the Saints are in the Super Bowl.
It's okay. You probably won't.
You're starting the live recording of D10 and Grace.
What?
You're starting the live recording of D10
Oh, did I
and
mess it
Grace?
up?
Yeah.
Shit.
What?
Dude, I'm like half dead, man. I'm like half
It's just-
dead.
It's just funny. I'm exhausted too. It is just funny. That he's-
I just want you to know, of course,
Saints versus
it's
Pats. Oh, that's a good one. I would love to see the Pats win. Yo, what up, Inferno?
Like I just feel terrible, so
Hey, Dylan. And Inferno.
I can't see any chat right now either. I don't know why, but my chat's
okay.
not up.
Don't worry, Tannen. I screenshotted that tweet.
Yeah, I should get a pass. I should definitely get a pass. I'm like still really under the weather. Where's my chat? Why can't I see my chat? Oh, here we go.
Your chat's gone forever.
If Tana wasn't around, I'd probably have quit Magic by now.
It's kind of odd flex, but okay.
Yeah.
How is that a flex? I don't understand how that one's a flex.
I don't know, man. Why do you take memes literally?
Because we're talking literally.
Are we?
We are literally talking.
Touche.
I believe it's pronounced touchy.
Oh, it is. You got me on that one.
I believe it's pronounced touchy. Oh my god.
You're really paying homage to you know,
Really
my
paying
jokes.
homage. Oh my god. You guys slay. You guys slay me. Spelled with an EI.
I am more Team Bacub in my life. Yeah, Team Bacub is great. Also, Ross doesn't appreciate me calling it Team Bacub.
Well, Ross doesn't matter. It's just actually his opinion.
We're gonna talk about a few things, Funkhauser, but I'm not feeling that much better. I can eat now. That's the best part, but I'm still not back to being normal because I didn't eat or drink anything for 2 days.
So Tannen, did you know? Do you call it Team Bacub around Ross?
I don't usually say it around anyone other than you guys.
Okay, yeah. I was talking to Ross and I said, "Oh, how's Team Bacub doing?" And he said, "Why are you doing that?" And I said, "Doing what?" And he said, "Saying it as a word." And
Saying
I
it as
said,
a word, yeah.
I'm like, "What do you mean? That's how it is a word, and that's
Yeah.
how it's pronounced." And then he looks at me. He's like, "I don't like you." And I said, "I like you too, Ross." And he's like, "No, you misheard me. I don't like you." And I was like, "This is the best thing to ever come out of Team Bacub. I love this interaction."
What's up, Jen? All right, let's get the show started because, like, I don't know if I'm like already struggling. So
Let's get this party started.
Yeah, I mean, what's up, Frank? We're ready when you are. I'll take care of the intro for you, Tannen.
Yeah, please.
Don't worry.
I'm like already feeling bad.
Rudy's gonna do it. My hair looks
Yeah, I'm gonna.
so
No,
red.
we're not really gonna be talking sport. We'll see where we're at.
It might come up.
Spoilers is a maybe thing.
It might come up. If not, it's definitely next week.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for this stream to catch up to me making weird hair.
Are you ready, Brad?
I don't know. I'm looking at my hair right now, but I'm waiting for me to catch up.
You need takes. Domri's great. Dovin's fine. Prime Speaker
Are there-
Manafar
are there-
has very, very, very high ceiling.
What are you talking about, Jen? What do you mean rules about the banning? Are we allowed to talk about Bertantini? Oh hell yes, and we're going to. Nothing for 2 days. That kind of depletion should kill a senior citizen. Thanks, Dylan. I appreciate that. I'm guessing that's a joke as if I am a senior citizen as well. Chat rules? No, you can say whatever you want. Just be respectful of like everybody else in chat, and like don't go overboard. Obviously, like just be reasonable. What's up, Vince?
Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
We'll start the recording in 5, 4, 3. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode 63 of the Grinders Podcast. I'm Rudy Bricksta, joined here, as always, by the Tannen Grace and Bradley Carpenter. How are you boys doing today?
I'm doing significantly better than I was this weekend. I'll say that, but still not great.
Good. We'll definitely get to that in a little bit. Brad,
Yeah.
How about you, bud?
I am doing fantastic. I just got home from the weekend trip, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's great. So this weekend we did have SCG Columbus, which is the first Open of the new year. It was Team Non-Unified Modern. Kind of an interesting format for sure. And what Tannen was kind of alluding to is Tannen did get sick. He did not play this weekend. Brad, do you have any idea why Tannen was feeling a little sick this weekend?
Well, he was. I believe this is the first team tournament in a very long time that Tanner was missing something, and I think the nerves might have got to his stomach a little bit.
Yeah,
made him a little upset. You think I'm right on this one, Rudy?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it right on the head. Tannen is certainly missing one, Brennan DeCandio. And because Brennan DeCandio was not around, Tannen worried himself to being sick and, just couldn't handle the pressure, leaving poor Ross Merriam and Jim Davis left to their own devices. Stu Summers bravely stepped up to step in for Tannen. But as we know, Stu is maybe not as lucky as Tannen is. And so they did not have a great day. But Jim was able to recover because, he doesn't need Tannen. And, Jim, I believe, top 4 the Classic.
Yeah, he top 4'd the Legacy Classic, playing what I would call a typical Jim deck, just playing miracles, literal do-nothing miracles. So if there's a do-nothing blue-white deck, Jim's all over it. So, but yeah, this weekend was rough. I was actually on site. Rudy, I saw you on site. Brad and I did not cross paths. So it was disappointing and upsetting not getting to play this weekend for a multitude of reasons.
Absolutely.
Reason number one, you let your team down. Had we not had a good replacement, someone at the level of say a Stu Summers, like an above average player to replace me with, I would have just manned up and played. I don't think I would have left my team high and dry with some random person. I don't mean that in any bad way versus somebody else. Just if it's somebody we don't know, somebody that you can't trust, I would rather just play myself at I could have maybe played at 70%. I was feeling a little bit better that day, but I still hadn't eaten or drinking anything in, well over 30 hours. So there was that. It was kind of weird to not play. I was in the room for the start of round 1 before I left to catch my flight home because I just went home because I felt that bad. And my wife's dad is a doctor, and he was like, yeah, you should probably come home. So they took care of me when I got back. It sucks for the player of the year race and the players championship race. I'm just now an event behind. So anyone that I'm going to be directly racing with this year just has an advantage of playing a whole nother event. So that sucks. Missing a team event sucks the most because, like I said, I really enjoy playing with my teammates, but my best average finish is in team events. I do run the best in team events because I'm always the worst player on my team. So that's the dream. And you could assume that we're gonna get some amount of points here. We've done pretty well in them overall, so missing out on those kind of quote unquote guaranteed points sucks, but whatever, it happens. And Jim and I and Ross and I had a long discussion about it Friday night when we got into the hotel that night, and then we had a discussion about it in the morning, and we all thought it was the best decision for me was just to not play. And I don't know how you guys thought about it or what you guys think about it, because the thing is you need to protect yourself, man. You need to worry about your health. Your health is important.
It's not just you too, right? Because
Right.
when you're sick and you decide to play and you're playing in a team setting, not only are you interacting with both of your teammates in a very close and personal setting, you're also interacting with 3 other people. So if you're sick with a virus, for example, you could literally just, pass
Infect
to
the
your
entire
team.
room.
Yeah, it's just something that spreads around. I mean, like I know some people might not think about that, but it is something to
Well,
consider. And
yeah.
I think you're correct for not playing because it just doesn't make any sense to make everyone else sick
Right.
and also like try to play when you're really not feeling well. I've tried to play sick in the past.
Yeah, I
I've tried to
remember
play-
you having to run to the trash can in between rounds. I don't remember
yeah.
what event that was, but I remember
It
you
was
were
it was actually it was actually the first team event.
right. That's it. Yeah.
It was actually a little different because I wasn't feeling sick to begin with. I literally just got sick in round 3, and I would play my match, go vomit, sleep against the wall until the next round started, get woken up by my teammates for the next round, come back,
Wash,
play
rinse,
my
and
match.
repeat. Yeah.
Yeah, just 2-0 my opponent, and then just go throw up again and go to sleep again.
So,
and this is like my cycle for just 6 rounds.
Yeah, that sounds like hell.
Yeah, it was
that was
awful.
so that's part of why we made the decision. We were pretty sure that we were 100% positive I wasn't contagious. I had food poisoning, of what was going on because I felt relatively fine. Otherwise, like I was up and moving around, like I didn't have a cold. I wasn't like, my nose wasn't running. I didn't have like a headache. I just literally like could not keep food or fluid in my body, and so we knew that I wasn't contagious. I felt okay Saturday morning waking up, like I got to the site all right. We were walking around. The problem was I still couldn't eat or drink anything. So we were really worried. The thing we were the most worried about is I'd be like okay for a round or two. And then round 3, I'm just like, I don't know if I can make the rest of the day. And that's like a bigger nightmare scenario than replacing me with another player. It's like, the thing like you said, like you get sick in the middle of the day. Like, what do you do then? And so it was a hard decision to make. Like, do you have either one of y'all been in a spot like that before? You've had to make that decision, like what's best for the team and what's best for you personally, because like I feel like I made the right decision, but I was going to regret whatever decision I made.
No, but also team events weren't really a thing when I was feeling sick for the most part. But I have not played tournaments intentionally because I wasn't really feeling well. I wasn't really feeling up to it, and so I just kind of took off and just decided not to play. Slept in, kind of showed up to a tournament. Site whenever if it was an open weekend and I wasn't feeling well, or just stayed home.
Yeah, Brad, do you like blame me at all for making the decision that I did?
Yeah, I think it's a little ridiculous. Brandon's not going to be at every event, Tannen. Sometimes you just you really just gotta overcome this fear. I understand. You're so used to looking at Brandon, and he's a good looking dude. And then you have to look at Jim. Okay, you're looking at the future there.
Yeah, and Ross also is not ideal to look at after Brendan.
Oh my God!
I also I have a question. Is this why Team Bacub got Dylan Hand? Is because Dylan Hand kind of looks like Brendan DeCandio?
Yeah.
So it was a way for you to have
like the hair playing
person. Yeah, the hair, the glasses, the stature. They also have
you found us out.
Faces.
No, you found us out. Brad, to your point, I've actually thought about this. So for the next team event, which I believe is in Baltimore, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wear the glasses that I've got that y'all keep joking about that I have like the Brandon glasses that have the Brandon DeCandio glasses. I'm gonna wear them, right? And then I'm going to like shave my face and I'm going to get the Brandon DeCandio haircut. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a mirror on the side of Ross's head. So whenever I look to the left, I just see a mirror of me looking like Brandon DeCandio. So
that's perfect. That's genius.
There you go. I'm the smartest man alive.
Yeah, I agree. That sounds like such a good idea. But you also should play standard if you're going to do that, because maybe his secret is in his hair. That's why he never loses. I don't know if you thought about that.
Like some Samson stuff. It's like his strength and standard is because of his luscious hair.
Yes, absolutely. But one of the things you pointed out earlier is you didn't really get to see Brad. And I don't really think that's actually a mistake, because this was huge. This was actually the largest open ever, single or team. There were, I believe, 25 players and 375 teams, something like that.
I can't do that math.
Teams.
Yeah.
I forget what it was, but it was like 300 plus teams, well over 1,100 people, which is just insane. And I think it's kind of interesting because I think one of the big reasons that this was so popular is because it was team non-unified, which basically means that it was more or less a basic modern tournament. We're going to definitely get to this later because we're going to talk about Worcester. But one of the things that we here at Grinders Cast MTG like to talk about is we like to talk about the news. We like to talk about what's happening in the Magic community. We like talking about the drama because I think for the most part, Tannen and Brad, is I feel like we usually have pretty reasonable takes, and I enjoy talking about these kind of things, and I believe people enjoy it too. I think we're going to start with the important one. We're going to get the important one out of the way. As of this morning, Alex Bertuccini has been banned for life. He has a lifetime ban. He's never coming back. And we believe that it was because he got DQ'd at a tournament for finding a hardened scales off an ancient Stearns, which the entire reason I've never liked hardened scales that much is because you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't find the best
Absolutely
card.
can.
Yeah, you can't find the best
Yeah.
card in the deck. Like, yeah.
Right. So it's certainly an interesting thing, and I got to tell you, this is. I don't know if this is surprising. With Alex's history, it's one of those things that he was always just a step away from fucking up at some point and getting banned for doing something. Do you think that this was something potentially like an accident, and because of his past, that was it for him? Or do you think that this is just normal Alex, casual Alex, what he's been doing the entire time, and finally he's not getting away with it, and this is it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know, right? Like, I always expected it to be something at something at like a GP or something. I didn't expect him to play in like what I can assume is like some sort of 5K or IQ or some smaller Saturday tournament, and just get DQ'd from that, and that just set everything in motion. But it's kind of cool to know that we don't have to wait for a large event for him to mess up at, and that it's just over and done with. Nail in the coffin, right?
Honestly, my opinion, I hope it was an honest mistake. Like, I hope he actually made some egregious error here that he wasn't aware that he was making, and then feels unbelievably slighted by the response that's happened to it, and what has happened because of this, because then he might understand a slight bit of what everybody else feels and the unfairness that we've had to deal with him being in the environment and in the Magic community for so long after so many repeated offenses. And obviously, I just don't believe that's true. Like, I mean, come on, you've been playing Magic your whole life. You know what this card does. You know this card can't get like. There's no way you didn't know this and stuff like that. So, but here's the thing. While I do believe that happened this weekend, and there were some other rumors going on of like why I get banned of like possibly bribing at a PTQ or whatever. I saw some stuff on Reddit, and we can't believe any of that stuff. I do find it hard to believe that it was something this weekend, and you get this fast of a turnover from WotC, because usually it takes them at least a few days or a week for something like this to happen. And I got to believe that maybe this was something they had in the works anyway. There was, talk of, what was it, a couple weeks ago, Bertuccini went to what was it? It's like a judge panel. Like they bring on the
judge seminar
convention. Yeah, the seminar. Yeah. So, and Bertuccini went and was like a guest of honor. I guess I'm using quotations around this, but it was like a guest, and they were like, like help us, all right. So if you heard of like the blackjack teams from MIT that went to Vegas and like, racked up tons and tons of money. Well, when they found out about this, obviously the guys were like banned from playing blackjack, but they hired all the players and stuff involved because they were like, hey, we don't want this to happen in the future. What can we do to fix this? Because like, who's better to find all the weaknesses in your thing than the person who's been breaking it the whole time, right?
Right.
And from what I've heard was he gave them like no new information, like didn't volunteer anything they hadn't heard before, and then pretty much just talked about the problems that he did himself, the two cheats that he admitted to, not the dozens and dozens others that he did, and then also complained apparently about getting cheated. And so I'm assuming this did not sit well, and then eventually they were just like, all right, just get out, something along that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of things behind that. One of the things that I'm interested in too is I really wish I knew more information about what was going on, but I tend to think that once somebody is a cheater, they are pretty much always going to be a cheater. These people that you look at in Magic who are kind of sketchy in a lot of ways, they end up in the same situation a lot over and over and over again. There are these people that do, things like thinking about, someone like Dan Ward too, like especially Dan Ward, every tournament I was ever in, he seemed to be involved in some judge call, like over and over and over again for something that he did, that he was doing. there's a reason that this kind of happens a lot because there's a pattern to it. These people tend to do the same things over and over and over again. And so I feel like there was very likely a pattern here, and it's not something that's easy to stop. And I know you were kind of hoping that he did it accidentally, but I feel it's more likely that he just did it intentionally and he finally got caught for it. So my next question to you, and especially Brad, I'm really interested in what you have to hear about this. Do you think that this is the start of something new? Do you think that this is what's going to start happening with cheaters, especially repeat cheaters?
I mean, I hope so, especially since I feel like it's almost just random, like just throwing darts at a board. Like, I think it would be great if they keep an eye on Dan when he comes back, and like, I'd love to see something like this happen. It's, just like one more offense and then bam, lifetime, not like some arbitrary number that they just made up or just smashed their head on the keyboard and came up with something.
Yeah,
I like to believe there's a dartboard. Awesome. I like to believe there's a dartboard with like random numbers on it, and they just throw it at there.
If you look at some of the bands, it really is just like
47 years, like
right.
28 months.
We talked about this on the cast before, I believe, but there is a committee that essentially decides the ban. It's not judges can recommend what happens, but I think having a committee that isn't the judge community, making the bans, I think that ends up in a lot of the same situation that we're getting now, where these people just have like randomly decided bans, and sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't. But I think in general, I wish we could kind of move it back to the judges and just get people out of there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Okay. So I think we're all kind of on board with that. As we've talked about it multiple times on this cast, all of us hate cheaters. A pretty decent amount. We all want them out of our game. We hope you listening also feel the same way. Otherwise, I don't know why you'd keep listening to our cast, because we're just going to keep talking about how much we hate cheating.
Yeah. It's going to be a recurring theme.
Yeah, really, really weird. There are a lot of recurring themes on here. Brad Cause.
We talk about food.
Make fun of for being old. We talk about being old. I get teased for anything and everything. I deal with it all. But we're gonna have a lot of Nova and B Cub battles for sure, which is kind of interesting. And I think it's great that a Team B Cub member had to join Team Nova team in order to perform well. Probably just coincidence. But,
yeah, just, sure. Whatever you need to tell yourself, buddy. Whatever you need to tell yourself.
Oh, I actually had a really good joke. Okay, before we go on to the next thing, I actually had a really good joke this weekend.
This is gonna be so bad.
And I feel kind of bad for it, but we were talking about Players Champion stuff. We were talking about just a bunch of different things. And Dylan's sitting there, across from Brad, and Brad's wearing his PC jacket from the last year that there was the Players Championship in 2016. And I noticed something. And so I said to Dylan, I was like, do you guys know why Team B Cub chose that color? It's because they're not going to get into the Players Championship minus Joe, so they wanted to be as close as possible.
Are you talking about like the new
new jackets?
This one?
Yeah, the new jackets look just like the PC jackets.
For everyone that's at home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I will say this. It is really nice to be sponsored by somebody for our team and have them actually, pay for us to get really nice jackets and really nice shirts and get a bunch of free supplies and stuff. I will say that's awesome. So make sure that you check out all the BCW supplies, as everybody at home listening, everybody watching right now, because they are just the best. Best sleeves in the market, best supplies in the market.
Hashtag sponsored.
Hashtag sponsored.
Do they sell PC jackets?
No, they sell higher quality, better jackets.
Oh, okay.
Eddie Bauer is nice.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Is Eddie Bauer better than Under Armour? Because that's an Under Armour jacket, right?
I think we might have gone all with. I'm not sure of the jacket. I think this is Under Armour. Yeah, this is Under Armour, okay. And then I think the shirts were all Nike this time around, because we had some Under Armour, some Adidas, some Nike. Like we tried out like one of each to figure out which one we wanted to go with, or whatever.
Nice. I didn't see any of the shirts. I only saw the jackets.
I think they look exactly the same. If I remember, I got my care package at the event. I got my check, my stuff. We got some of the new sleeves to try out a little bit that haven't come out yet. and stuff. And I haven't even really unpacked yet, so I haven't even looked through all of it. Stu still has one of my shirts. I think he may have given it to Ross or whatever, but he was wearing my Team Bacub shirt during the event.
Yeah.
It literally said team member Tannen Grace on it.
No, that's great. No, that's awesome. Okay, so the next set of news is in the finals of Magic Fest Oakland, Hunter Cochran, down a game, concedes to Ely Cassis.
Whoa, how do you know they didn't just want to play it like Arena? How do you know they weren't just best of one in this thing?
It did end up being best of one. They were ready for it. That was what was going to happen. And there's been a lot of talk about this.
I was actually watching it when it happened, by the way. It was
and obviously
it was like
definitely looks a little different.
Yeah, it was like super confused. Sorry to cut you off. It looked super confusing because no one knew what happened. Like, you know, the game was over and then he like shakes his hand and everybody's like, why did he shake his hand? And then they both very quickly pack their bags and leave. There was also no winners interview. I think both of them had flights to catch. And
Yes,
you know, Ely was like
Ely
willing to
missed
eat
his.
it. Yeah, he missed it, but he was willing to eat it and try, you know, cuz like here's the thing.
Yeah.
It's Hunter Cochran, right? That's that right?
Hunter Cochran.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, make sure I get the name right. That's what I thought. I just want to make sure I didn't say the wrong player. As far as we know, and I'm pretty sure this is like 100% correct. He had a very important meeting in the morning, and there was only one flight that could get him back to like 100% make that meeting. And the meeting is very, very important to him, right? It's like very important to his real life stuff away from Magic. You know, the guy's got a job, stuff like that. And I got to say, just bravo to Hunter Cochran for like making that real life decision. That decision is very hard to make. I don't know if I can make it in that situation. Like Brad, could you make that decision in that spot?
I mean, I don't know what would be more important, but probably.
What if it's just like, you know, the job that he's going to be at for the next 40 years? You know, like
Yeah,
this is his
exactly, like-
career. Like,
He just is, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
how much
I would
is
assume.
it actually worth, right? Like, if
so
I
so
assume
that-
he's a
so
good
he-
job, smart kid.
right.
yeah, but
So
it was like
certainly, so
the difference is
so-
what, 2,500, I think?
yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is 25.
Also, we don't know. There could have been some kind of thing they talked about ahead of time, like, hey, like chops, and then like if you win game one, I'm going to concede because I'm trying to make my flight, kind of thing.
Yes.
Like we
It's
don't know
definitely
what's
possible.
yeah.
I know that the person who lost to Hunter Cochran in top 8 tweeted out that after he lost to Hunter, Hunter was trying to rebook his flight.
Mhm.
And I don't know how deep that happened or if he actually got to
Yeah.
like push it up that much.
Where is Hunter from?
Does
Does anybody know? Is he East Coast? Like,
Yeah, he's definitely. I think he's New York area.
okay, yeah, then he's like practically drawing dead. He's probably on like the only flight that gets him back or like that night because you know the GP is going to end at what like 6 or 7 or 8 p.m. local time or something like that.
Right.
You know, if you win the finals and get also, there's no way there's a flight at like 10 or 11 that goes
Yeah, he's
back East
definitely
Coast.
Northeast.
Like to make sure that you get back, like maybe there's a red eye, but it just depends on like does he live exactly where the flight is landing? You know, does he have like an hour drive somewhere and then go home and change? And you know what I mean? There's so many factors and stuff. And yeah, it sucks. Also, like we don't also know what the talk was before, like I said, because Illy made platinum winning this event. He needed to win
right.
the event to make platinum for like the last little. It's only like I think the first 2 events that this matters. The first 2 Mythic Championship / Pro Tours.
Right, and I think that's why there's a lot of controversy surrounding it because Ely, with a win, does lock platinum. There is nothing. So you know, a lot of people tend to think that when something like this happens, it's because Ely offered something, or you know, whoever offered something in order to gain something here. And I think a lot of people kind of just jumped the gun on this and went,
Agreed.
"Oh, obviously."
Agreed. I think it's just a perfect
Yeah.
storm, right? Like, obviously you're going to chat before the thing, and, like, he probably sees that Hunter is, like, frantically trying to book his flight, because Hunter's probably on the phone, you know, like, trying to book it. And then, you know, they probably, like, he probably knows that Ely needs to win this to make platinum. Like, this is a conversation that has come up. You know, they talked about it the whole time through the top 8 during coverage that Ely needed to win this to make platinum. So all these conversations came up, and it's just a perfect storm of, like, I need to leave. You really need this win. You won game 1, and your sideboard is good against my deck. You know, because like he literally had already just beaten. He played against KCI all 3 rounds of the top 8,
Yes.
and he beat it the first 2 rounds.
He beat Matt Nass in the top 4 too. So
Big deal, by the way, that he beat Matt Nass, who going into day 2 had his win percentage with that deck at the GP level at over 90%.
Yes.
Think about that. That is a legit stat.
And I
Right.
did check. Hunter is from New York, or he currently lives in New York. So yeah, sometimes getting a flight to New York is not really the easiest.
Yeah, like from the west coast to the east coast at that time of night or whatever, and like yeah, like I gotta say this, it's a hard decision. A lot of people wouldn't make it in his same spot, but let's be real. How many people that are grinding and really want to win a Grand Prix are in that situation where they have a job where like they need to be there at like 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Monday morning for a meeting where if they miss it, like they're probably going to lose their job, and this is like their career. There's not a lot of people in this community that can probably put themselves in his exact shoes. I know I'm not one of them.
No. I mean, I'm not either, but I have also done the same kind of thing
Yeah.
as Hunter Cochran at SEG Atlanta last year. The team tournament that I played with Jonathan Job and Brian Basoko, I was close to like having to rebook my flight. And after we won our top 8 match, I didn't have a choice.
Mhm.
And we were one of the last matches to finish. So I was just on the phone trying to rebook my flight for tomorrow morning. And Nicolette, the head judge, was like, I need you to
Play
wrap
your
this
match.
up.
Yeah.
We need to start your match, and you're holding this entire tournament up because you're trying to rebook. And I was like, yeah, I understand that, and I don't want to hold everyone up, but at the same time, I have to do this, because if I don't do this now, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
This needs to be taken care of.
I've had a couple interesting ones in like similar situations. I know that the event where we lost in the finals, I believe it was Baltimore. So it was me, Ross, and Brendan Candio. DeCandio had a flight home to Denver from Baltimore, and he had to be home and at work for 9 a.m. Monday morning, because this is when he worked for Direwolf Digital, and he like just can't miss. He's like a new employee. You just can't miss your extra days of work, because he had to like jet out early on Friday. And I remember he thought he was going to be able to make his flight unless we won the tournament. And then if we won the tournament, it's like, whatever, we'll figure it out. You're getting a lot of money. We'll figure out the flight or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then if I remember this correctly, it was like Kazu Negri was playing Jeskai on his side of the quarterfinals. And he got like a blue-white control matchup or another Jeskai matchup. And they took like 2 hours because it's untimed. And they've just like decked each other every game. Like we literally sat around for over an hour waiting for our next match in the top 8. Because we finished in like 30 minutes. We finished like 35 minutes, and we just sat around for over an hour. So Brennan had to rebook his flight for Monday morning at like, they had a flight early enough that he could get in like at 8:30 or whatever. And then he had to literally go straight from the airport to work, right? Like he didn't even get to go home or anything, blah, blah, blah. And if I remember right, he broke even on the weekend after getting second in the Open, because of having to rebook that flight and how much expensive it is to be like, I need a one way to Denver, Colorado. And anyone who's ever tried to fly to Denver before, it's not easy depending on where you're at. Like they do not have great flights in and out of there all the time.
Brennan's
No,
also
not-
really
not
good
at
at
all.
missing
I think-
flights.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
doesn't understand the
Brennan-
whole flying thing.
Yeah, well, he also can't read. I think that's
Yeah, he definitely
that's
booked
big.
one. I'm trying to remember all the good ones. He obviously Brad, you always tell the story about him like just not getting up one morning to go.
I was like, hey, Brennan, your flight's at 11, I'm pretty sure. And he said, no, my flight's at 1. And then we woke up that morning at 11, and he was like, crap, my flight's at 11.
Yeah,
And I
obviously.
said, well, good luck. And then we got to the airport, and there he was, getting on our flight.
Another personal favorite of mine. We're sitting there like Sunday night, like the after open, hangout or whatever. And this is like, I think he wasn't working at Direwolf yet. So like he could kind of, fly back on Monday. And he just looks at his phone and goes, shit. And I'm like, what happened? And he's like, well, I booked my flight for the wrong day. I was like, oh, did you book like Tuesday or something? And he's like, no, I booked it for next month.
Yep, that one's my favorite one. I actually, yeah, that's insane. I feel very fortunate that I've only had to like rebook my flight a couple times, and it was never because I messed something up.
Yeah, I don't-
it was just something out of my control.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've had to rebook. Almost all of my flights, I usually just leave Monday.
There's a chance that it's going to happen to me at some point because I like to book home for Sunday nights. I try to get like the 8 p.m. flight home. But if I ever have to rebook because of that, I'm probably going to be okay with whatever happens for the rebooking, because that means I like did very well in the tournament, if not won it. So it is brutal when you lose in the finals and have to rebook, though. That's like the worst.
Yeah, that sounds awful. Yeah, so basically, I think at the end of it, I think that concessions are. I want to talk a little bit more about concessions just in general, and I think that there's nothing wrong with
No.
conceding. To help somebody out. Magic is a game that we kind of help each other. I don't feel like Ely at any point in time was like, you need to concede to me. If you don't concede to me, I'm going to hold it against you.
No,
No
way.
but and I think I think that might have happened like in the past, not with Ely, I mean, but like just with players in general. And I think that's kind of a few bad people have kind of stigmatized it for everyone else. But a lot of times, sometimes you just concede to people just to try and help them out. Sometimes SCG points are important. I know I've personally conceded to Max McVetti to try and like get him into a silver invite or try to get him into like a gold invite. I forget what it was, but I conceded to him even though I beat him because me doing well at the GP at the stage we were in meant less to me than him winning, and I never asked him for anything.
Yeah,
I never have. He's never given me any. He's offered. He's like, "Oh, can I like buy you dinner to thank you or whatever?" Because I really appreciate it. And it's just like, no, it's fine. Because sometimes we do that as Magic players, is we try to help out our friends, try and help out, people that we know. Sometimes people, are just, as you said, Ely was just a couple points short of platinum, and the platinum meant a lot to him. And
he gets the benefits like now. Like, you know what I mean? He doesn't have to play like a whole nother event and hope to get the points for it,
right, which is awful. Trying to
what if he was like a couple points short of that and then like mend, like 2 events in a row? Like, you go to a Magic Fest and get like a point or whatever. That would just be like the nightmare situation.
It's the actual just most brutal thing in the world. And I mean, obviously it wouldn't be Hunter's fault either way. Like, there's nothing holding Hunter to conceding, and there's nothing holding him to playing. He doesn't owe Ely anything, and Ely doesn't owe Hunter anything. Hunter might have just done it out of the kindness of his heart, but if Ely wants to go back and say, "Hey, I'll buy you dinner, thank you so much for everything," I don't think that's like an unreasonable thing, but it doesn't
not at
mean
all.
that, but also don't confuse it, right? Because this doesn't mean that Ely's bribing Hunter in any way.
Yeah,
you can thank somebody for something without it being a bribe.
Yeah, like there's like an unspoken understood thing. Like, let's say me and Brad are playing late in a tournament, right? And like I need the win really badly because like I need the points and he doesn't, right? And let's say like that concession that Brad gives me puts me into like the top 16 and puts Bradley into like top 64. Like, he's not going to ask for it. I'm not going to mention it, but I'm probably going to make it right, at some point in time. Like, I'm going to
never concede.
I'm using you as an example, Bradley. We all know that you're a terrible human being and would never concede.
Wow,
but
that's just rude.
But yeah, I would probably make it right at some point. It's just like an understood thing. Just because, like, especially when it's like your friends and you're all grinding, a ton and stuff. And it's just like you would also hope that if the situation were reversed, you would get the courtesy from your opponent as well. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, but there's nothing holding it.
Of course.
Brad conceding to you does not require you to give him money for any reason, and Brad is not asking you to give money. I think a lot of people just like assume that there is, you concede to them, you're definitely going to get, paid kind of thing, and you should not ever think about it like that because it's just not how it works.
Yeah. True.
There's definitely like a big difference between, doing something to, be nice or to say thank you without, there being a, kind of, this is going to happen. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to concede to Tannen. Tannen's going to go ahead and, make it in the top 16. He's going to qualify for the Players Championship off that, and he's just going to give me a bunch of money for it. And, that's just not how it works. And if you are like, hey, Tannen, how about you give me some money? Now that's like a lot different from everything else that's happening too. And I think a lot of people just kind of conflate what people is, what you were talking about earlier, how it's like kind of understood with bribery. And those are just different things.
I mean, I'm at least buying you a nice dinner. Let's be real. I'm at least buying you like a steak, and you're probably your drinks are probably going to be on me as well. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna take care of you. You know what I mean? I'm not just gonna leave you out to dry.
Right, absolutely. But I mean, I don't think people should expect that kind of thing.
Yeah.
you know, from people, you know, if they do that, you know, if you decide to do that, it should come from, you know, a different place. It shouldn't come from, I'm doing this because I expect to get paid from it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So
Anyway, that aside, kind of an interesting thing that we alluded to a little bit earlier was it was a non-unified modern tournament that happened this weekend in Columbus. There were some interesting things that happened. And if you look at the breakdown of this tournament, and I want to talk a little about modern, one of the things that non-unified is really interesting is because it essentially ended up being a modern tournament, right? Everyone just kind of played their own modern deck. Like I played with Team Nova members, Will Pulliam and Harlan Führer, and we all just kind of played our own modern deck that we would have played anyway. You know, there were a couple things that overlapped, but it just doesn't matter because we're all just kind of doing our own thing. But if you look at the tournament breakdown, there was something that was kind of interesting. There was a bunch of KCI decks. There was a bunch of Dredge. You know, there was a bunch of Arclight, and there was a bunch of Amulet.
Yeah, just all the broken decks. Yeah,
right. And it's kind of something that we've been talking about for a little bit. And I think one of the interesting things is, and we can definitely talk about this in a little bit, is you know, does something have to change in modern?
You want to start that now?
Yeah.
Brad, do you think anything needs to change in modern?
I think that with modern not being a Pro Tour format anymore, I would like to see them be very liberal with the ban list, and just maybe like, all right, we have this KCI deck, like instead of reducing the format, like let's unban, you know, Stoneforge Mystic, and just like if they mess up, then just, you know, ban it again or whatever, and just like keep an eye on it and just let things happen, or just, you know, just unban everything.
Give it the Grave Troll.
Good idea.
Yeah, give it the Grave Troll treatment.
No ban list.
Just no. I'd actually be kind of interested in a small ban list, like an 8-card ban list kind of deal, where
like
very few cards are banned.
Yeah, but then like where do you
Phyrexian mana?
At that point, it's like where do you stop though? If you only have like an 8-card ban list, it's like who decides those 8? I don't know if I trust whoever's making that decision.
I think there's been enough no ban list modern tournaments at this point in time that we can kind of look back and say, okay, well, Eldrazi is far and away the most broken deck. It has the highest success rate. The most amount of people are playing it. You know, we could ban something from there. The next most played card is Gitaxian Probe. You know, we can go ahead and cut that, and then just kind of run back and like start from there.
No, I think it's pretty fine the way it is. Besides the fact that I do think something from KCI should go. And I don't say this just on the basis of power. Like, obviously, the deck is very good, and I think people aren't hating it out enough. Like, we're not seeing enough Stony Silences. It's the same... I've made this argument on the show before. It's the same argument that I used to make about banning Sensei's Defining Top. It's just bad for the game. Like, what's going on in the game with the person taking, like, the entire game and making these infinite loops, it's the same reason... Like, they banned eggs for this exact reason. They literally said when they banned the egg deck that, like, this is why we're banning it. And now KCI is just okay doing the exact same thing, and the deck's probably actually even possibly better. Like,
yeah, I personally played KCI this weekend, and I beat Stonies. I beat Rest in Peace.
Yeah.
You know, those things. I beat Leyline in the Void. Those are the kind of things that I ended up beating, and there were multiple scenarios where I was just in a spot where I couldn't really fizzle. You know, I just like double Scrap Trawler in play, Ichor Wellspring, multiple stars, you know, 8 cards in my hand with a bunch of artifacts in my hand that I can draw off of and recycle. And I'm really just looking, you know, for like Spine or Mirror Retriever in order to, you know, kind of end the loop and just be like, look, this is it, please. And people just refuse to concede. And sometimes people went as far as I played against Tron. And I don't know if you know this, but if you Spine all Tron's permanents, there's 0% to win the game. And my opponent forced me to attack them every turn.
That's pretty ridiculous. Like, I get playing it out, especially in team events, but that's pretty ridiculous. And like that's the thing I'm talking about here. Like, that's one of the main reasons and one of the main things that I think makes this deck bad is it sets up games like that. It sets up situations like that because you're technically not playing Magic, right? Like, you're just playing a game of solitaire and like hope, you know what I mean? You don't interact very much. Like, you don't, like, we talk about like not interacting in modern is actually good a lot of the times, but it makes all these situations that are really bad for players and bad for people. It's terrible for coverage. It's so bad for coverage. And there was a lot of it going on this weekend because like 10 KCI decks were, through all the top 8s. A bunch of KCI made in SCG, and then I think three, if not 4, made it in the Grand Prix in Oakland. And it's terrible for coverage, and it's terrible for the games because you play these games that take forever, and you're just sitting there, and you're like, oh, I had to play a threat on 2 to try to kill them, and now I'm just dead.
It does. I also agree. It's just kind of still the same.
It's just miserable.
It's awful. Like I played the deck, and I definitely felt.
Did we lose Rudy here?
Uh,
Yeah, it sounds like we lost. Rudy is lost in the loop of KCI right now. He's actually cycling through permanents and stuff right now, so it sounds like we lost Rudy. But it sounds like he kind of agrees. Brad, how do you feel about KCI? Do you think it's okay?
It really leads to like pretty uninteresting gameplay. I think it is a little too fast. Like I think there was I think it might have been Rudy actually that was playing against someone in Amir, and he like basically had the turn 3 or whatever, and his opponent's just like, Opal, like Darksteel Citadel, Opal, Darksteel Citadel, play another Opal, play KCI, play Scrap Treller, play Spine, you're dead.
Yeah, it's just miserable.
It's been fun. Turn 2.
And so I mean, we're kind of just like spinning our wheels saying about like how miserable it is, and like, yeah, I think it needs to go, and then possibly we could see an unbanning. And like you said, it's not a Pro Tour format anymore, and I hope to God it's never a Pro Tour format because I don't like people flipping coins for that high of money. I don't like it as a competitive format.
Talking about flipping coins, I played the KCI mirror like 3 times in the tournament, and that mirror is, I mean, maybe I'm insane, but all my opponents felt the same way. The KCI mirror literally feels like a coin flip. It's just like, it's just, did I draw a KCI Trawler before you? I did. Okay, cool. I win.
I'm going to ask you a question. Have you ever played the Tron mirror before?
I would assume that. I assume the Tron mirror is. I would tell you this, and I don't think this is like being silly or being facetious in any way. I do strongly believe that the Tron mirror has more interaction than the KCI.
Well, yeah, because you actually have to do something to your... Yeah, because like the way you win the Tron mirror is you Karn and you point at your opponent's land and the game is over. Like, that's literally all it is. But I'm just saying, it's like, I'm agreeing with you because like the Tron mirror is kind of like the KCI mirror, except that like in a different way. It's actually the most miserable thing on the face of the planet in Magic. It's literally like only one thing matters at all, and it's just terrible.
I spent more time joking with my opponents than I did doing anything else during the KCI mirrors because there was just nothing else to do. Just absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
It just felt awful. It felt miserable. And I got to tell you, I mean, besides going back to it not feeling fun to really take a ton of game actions, it also was miserable playing the mirror. The mirror just did not feel
You deserve
fun.
It. You deserve it. Yeah, I hope you play nothing but KCI mirrors every time you play the deck, and I hope it's miserable for you. Somebody in the chat's making fun of me right now. Tron players complaining about playing against Tron. It's like, I'm not complaining about it. I'm saying like that mirror is like literally the most miserable thing in the history of Magic.
Yeah,
really?
well,
I actually find it fun.
I mean, the games are over real quick. that's nice.
I hope that you have to play several Tron mirrors. You know?
Have you ever had the mirror where like neither one of you gets Tron going and you have to like actually try to play games?
Yeah.
No, because I've never actually played Tron.
Well, I'm talking to the other Tron player here, Rudy. You can see yourself out for a minute. I'm talking to the other person's actually played a good deck in Modern before.
That's true. I play Death Shadow all the time.
Yep, exactly. Speaking of that, how'd you feel about Death Shadow this weekend? You got on coverage a little bit. It looked really good. Man, did you draw real hot in your game?
Yeah, it felt really good for about 5 rounds, and then we played against a triple burn team, and I lost a close one. And then we played against a triple humans team, and I lost a close one. And then what was the third round?
Hey, can I
think of the...
Can I interject for a second? The triple teams were amazing this weekend, by the way. There was like a lot of really cool ones. Like there was a Burn team that did really well, a Jeskai team that did really well, the triple Amulet team top 8'd. There was a team that almost day 2'd. I think they were actually on camera. The triple Hack-On team. They literally had the Hack-On. What's the full name of the deck? The full name of the card? I can't remember this now. It's like something Knight or whatever. It's the Knight from Cold Snap that lets you cast Knights from your graveyard.
I got you. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, so
there was a deck in Standard.
called Scourge.
Yeah.
There's a deck when I was in Standard that would just replay Nameless Inversion from the graveyard over and over again.
Yeah, I actually played that deck in a tournament. I remember playing it and I was like, this deck's awful. I don't know why I'm playing this or whatever, but it was sweet. So, did you see anybody doing anything cool this weekend? Like any of the triple teams like fully meme on it? You know, like there are 3 burn players, were they wearing like, you know, like a dinosaur onesie or something, you know, just something fun? Or I didn't get to hang around and see.
I didn't really see any of that. There was besides the triple Hacken team, there was also a triple Amulet team. They ended up making top 4 as well. So, I mean, but for the most part, though, I don't really think there was anything, you know, meme going on. People were just kind of playing decks that they would normally play anyway, and it just so happened, Amulet is just kind of needlessly complicated deck, and we have 3 people who are all basically playing the same deck and the same strategy who all know what's going on. It's a lot easier to figure out the right decision, when you have 3 people coming up with a decision instead of just one.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm trying to think of something fun you could have done. Like, let's say Cat Light ever gets to do this with a triple, like a spirit squad, like an actual spirit squad, right? Like all 3 of them. Like, do you wear like ghost outfits to the event? Like all 3 of you wear a ghost outfit or something? Or
I don't know if I would wear a ghost outfit, but I kind of see what you're going. I mean, this is never going to happen again.
They might. I mean,
that's just not true.
I was gonna say it had 1 billion people at the tournament.
Yeah, it was the largest open ever.
They made a lot of money this weekend.
Like, why wouldn't they just do one of these a season?
Yeah. Like, why don't they, like, it'd be cool if they maybe tried it out with Standard, but I don't think I would want it to be, like, the non-unified. Like, I'd want to have to actually play different decks, because it's actually, in Ravnica, it's actually probably one of the coolest formats to do it in, because you're like, bro, I really need Sacred Foundry in my deck. Like, I really need Sacred Foundry in my deck, like, trying to figure out, if you could stretch the mana bases.
Oh, that actually would be a lot more interesting now that we have everything.
So, so
Standard.
I actually played in the Pro Tour where this happened, where they it was block constructed original Ravnica with all of the sets, except the rule wasn't that if I had a card in my deck, you couldn't have it. You could only have 4 of a card amongst the 3 of you. So if I had like 3 breeding pools in my deck, you could have a breeding pool. Because like that actually happened, because there was decks that had I think Farseek was in the format, and Farseek could just go get a dual land, and so like the decks that had Farseek would like splash other cards, and they would just play like 1 off dual land, 1 off dual land, and then the other decks would just play like 3, and just play like an extra basic, and it allowed you to play like some more optimal cards without kind of having that problem run between all 3, and then like some sideboard cards got split where you'd be like, you get 2 and you get 2. Of like the good answers in the color combination if there just wasn't enough or whatever. And that led to some very interesting and awesome deck building restrictions, which I think is, we don't have that often. Brad and I got to play in the we've mentioned this before, the Team Grand Prix with Modern, and we had to kind of figure out our teams, because at the time, this was what, 2.5 years ago, Brad?
Yeah, I think it was either 2016 or 17, I think.
And so like we were trying to figure out like where do we put Path to Exile? And like one of our teammates, Steve Mann, he played Affinity, right?
Yeah, I think Man was on Affinity, you were on
Bant Eldrazi.
And then I was on Jund
Shadow.
4-color Shadow.
Yeah, you're a 4-color Shadow or something like that. And so it was really cool because like since he played Affinity, it freed up a lot of cards for me and Brad, because we were trying to find 3 decks that we were comfortable with where like we weren't taking cards from each other. And I kind of missed that. And like this tournament didn't give that to you, but I will say this, having the rule where you can play whatever you want, it's like you said, Rudy, you nailed it on the head. That's why they had so many people show up. That's why they had so many teams, is everyone just had to show up and play their deck. Like they didn't have to scramble to find, like, it's like, hey, we need 3 people to play this in like your little play group, and 2 of you like only play Burn or only play Tron.
Yeah, Will Harlan and I were a little curious. We were like, can we, like, if we wanted to play, how close were we to, playing Unified?
Right.
And the answer was like, actually, just not close.
more crossover than you thought.
Yeah, there was definitely
like. Did you have Bolt in your sideboard?
I had 1 Bolt in my sideboard, but that's like an easy fix. But like, I was playing Ancient Stirrings. Will was playing Ancient Stirrings. So that was definitely a problem. There were certainly some other overlapped cards, I'm sure, but I just can't even think of them. Engineered Explosives was another one.
Yeah, and somebody in the chat just made a good point too, and they brought this up during coverage this weekend. Is like this helps out monetarily with the teams as well, because like if you have a team that you always play with, like you might not own more than 3 Modern decks, and if 2 of you have overlap, like then you're SOL. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if we played against several teams who were playing two of the same deck.
I
We
think that
played
was
a team
pretty
that was
common.
playing,
Yeah.
yeah, Judge Edge Humans. We played against. I know Danny Jessup teamed with Frank Scarron and Pete Ingram, and Pete and Frank played basically the same 75, potentially even the same 75. I forgot to look it up and check it out, but
It was close, if
you
not
know,
the same.
it was Arclight, Band Spirits. So there were two people playing the same deck, and there was another team that went Judge Edge Humans that was also made top 8, and that kind of thing was kind of common where folks were playing two of the same deck and a third of a different one, and sometimes it's just because you want to play that kind of thing. Can you imagine like the Amulet team trying to figure out Modern when that's the deck that they own?
Yeah, if anything, I think this is the best way to do it, because it just allows every Modern player, which there are a million of, to say, hey, best friend who also likes Modern, do you want to come with me and play in this tournament? And then they're like, yeah, that sounds like a blast, because we love playing Modern, so let's just play Modern together.
Yeah, and like it led to some teams happening that might not happen ever again. Like I definitely would have, like, if some team, with like, good players and friends of mine were like, yo, do you just want to triple Tron? I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Like this is the one tournament where I'm going to switch off my team because this is fun and this is cool. Like you saw the triple Jeskai team, the triple Amulet team, like they might not ever play together again. Those three players might not. But how do you pass up the opportunity to do that? That's just so cool,
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of cool, but at the same time, I personally felt this way. And I'm not saying everyone else will feel this way. And I don't want to speak too much for Harlan and Will, but I feel like we all were on the same vibe where we all just kind of wished it was just a normal team tournament. We just like wanted to play standard
in Legacy. Yeah,
because that was just like kind of interesting. Even though we all play Modern, we all still kind of wanted to just kind of do our own thing, and it was also like kind of weird too, because this was a tournament where we felt it was even harder to kind of help out anybody, because people were playing these almost unique decks that they play,
right.
Modern is that format where when you play a deck that's like that, it's really hard to learn a bunch of other decks because there are certain intricacies involved with everything. And there were a couple times where I was doing something based on, how the game was playing out, what I've seen, what I stirrings or whatever. And it's easy to miss because you're kind of playing your own game. And so when I make a decision and you're like, oh, I don't understand why you're making the decision, it's because, you might have missed something. Right. And it's not like standard where it's like, or it's not like there's one format where you're like, oh, well, what happened? It's like kind of easy to walk back, where you're kind of doing your own thing and there's a lot going on, and it's really easy to kind of miss and like bounce back and forth between everything. So I wish it was.
Had it been a regular team open, like the 3 format one, I would have 100% played. Just because like the odds of us finding a legacy player with a legacy deck that wasn't playing on a team already, and then B, someone that we could like probably trust, that was like better than an average player to fill that seat, I just like the odds are so low.
Yep, I mean, I believe Harlan and Will didn't speak to each other once.
Brennan and I almost never, Brennan and I almost never talk during the tournaments. I actually feel like he's not there half the time. Like I'll look over and see like what's going on or whatever. But Ross and I mean, I think I've told you all this before. We don't talk very much during our tournaments. Like we'll joke and like laugh, but we don't talk about the games like ever.
I think that's generally correct. You want to try to spend the least time in your teammates' games as possible, just to kind of make sure that
I just agree. Yeah, definitely agree.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird. But I feel like that's even more exacerbated in Modern than it is anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. All right, I got a question. Brad, are you going to the next Open, the one in Worcester? Yes. So you are going now. I remember, you kind of, it seems like your schedule picked up a little bit here lately. Yep. Are you going to run back Shadow? Like, how are you feeling about that deck in Modern right now? If not, are there other decks you're thinking about? Like, where do you see the format going?
I think Shadow's fine. I think I might try and play the Eli Cassis Phoenix deck. I'm going to test that out probably on stream over the next couple of days. Ooh. And I have enough reps with the deck already that I'm pretty happy with it. And so if the deck performs, but I always have Shadow in like my back pocket. So
Yeah, I mean it's nice. I think that's something that I like as well. That I have a deck or two in most formats. So like you can't really have it in standard. Let's be real. But there's a deck in modern and there's a deck in legacy that like I can always go to if I need to, and I almost always do. But if I want to try something else out, I'm like, yeah, I could try this out for maybe a tournament or two, a week or two, try what's up, and then like you know that if you spend all your time testing with that deck, you have this thing in your back pocket. You're like, I just don't feel like it's right, and then you can just change, the night of. And just have that back there and be like, yeah, I'm good. So this would be great. Do you think there's, a best deck in the format other than KCI right now? Do you think it's the Phoenix deck?
I'm still not convinced that Phoenix is in a. I think it's good. I don't think it's as top tier as it's
As it's performing right now?
As its results. I think it still has the advantage of people having not played against it. Like, I don't even have that many reps against it.
Same.
So, like, the lines are just, like, not super obvious a lot of the time.
See, I just disagree. I think the deck is one of those decks that's been exceptionally hard to build, and there are a lot of different variations, and players still, don't know what it is. Like, think about this. Like, if you look at Ely's version that won, it was just, like, kind of, not wild. I don't want to say it's wild because it's not true. It's, it feels, pretty well done, pretty consistent. There's some, kind of interesting choices. There's 2 Pyromancer's Ascension in the main deck. That's definitely really interesting.
That was the first time anybody had really, shown up with that at a big event. Yeah.
Yeah, there were some rumors of it online.
Right, yeah.
Where folks were playing 4 Pyromancer's Ascension, 4 Remand, and playing that, but this is kind of a more concentrated list. There's no Monastery Swiftspear in this list. I know Harlan played 4 Monastery Swiftspear and Mutagenic Growth, and he really liked that. And, in a sideboard for Ely, there's Young Pyromancer, Threads of Disloyalty, Blood Moon. We've seen Alpine Moon. We've seen Crackling Drakes in the sideboard. If you go ahead and you look at Sperling's deck list that he won the PTQ with, he had I'm trying to think.
His was very, very, very close to Ely's. I think he might have actually just been like 1 card off because I think he got the list from Ely.
No, it's actually a little more. It's actually a little more than that, but he did get the list. But Sperling had Scab Clan Berserker in his sideboard. And do you know what that card is?
Is that the one that's it's a 3/3 for 2 if they take damage? Like it has Bloodthirst?
It's sort of. It's 1 red 2/2. Whenever it deals
that one,
damage, you put a counter on it. Whenever it has a counter on it, whenever your opponent casts a non-creature spell, they take 2.
I think Ely might have had it as well. But there was like that card has been showing up in the mono red version of that deck a good bit. Like it got on camera a couple times this weekend and stuff. And that card is actually very good. It's very good against like KCI and decks like that in Storm. The decks that can go over the top of you. That like you could
Yeah, we're seeing like Ancient Grudge now too. And my point basically is kind of like leaning back to this is there's still a lot of room for variation and a lot of room for improvement. And I think this deck, the fact that it is performing so well despite not looking that great on paper, just means that there's just going to continually be more and more and more room for in the future. Opt is gone from these lists. They're all playing, Ely played Sleight of Hand, which is definitely a little bit different from Opt. We always think that how important instant speed, being able to trigger Thing in the Ice is important, but this is just kind of not something that they're working on. Now it's a Pyromancer's Ascension deck, so they're just trying to be as consistent and get to that as soon as possible.
Yeah, it goes through your deck a lot faster, right? You start finding your more powerful sideboard cards quicker because you see 2 cards and you get to choose one of those 2 cards immediately. Where like you don't have to wait like off Serum Visions. You don't get to see you technically get to see 2 cards with Opt, but you might not. You see the top one, you're like, well, this is better than a random card, kind of thing. So I kind of like Sleight of Hand when you're trying to find like explosive like cards like Ancient Grudge or something for a matchup. Card that like could shut your opponent down completely.
Right. And so basically, I think we're at a point where Arclight is starting to come to it's going to start coming to a consensus best version sometime. There might be like 2 versions, like a Monastery Swiftspear aggressive version and a Pyromancer's Ascension combo-ish version. And, there'll be like a little bit of opportunity for you to kind of flip around and play around with it a little bit. But I think we're getting to a point where Arclight Phoenix is going to be, really well built. And it's just, I think right now it's one of the best decks, and I think it's only getting better. And I mean, one of the things we talked about is Austin Collins was telling me how he felt that Arclight was a very good matchup for KCI. And Ely just went ahead and changed some cards in the deck list and massacred multiple KCI players on the way to winning. Winning the Magic Fest, including being up a game over Hunter before they even, before Hunter conceded. So it wasn't like, he just sat down and conceded. He lost game one and was like, all right, I'm just gonna go catch my flight. It's fine, whatever.
Yeah, and we're seeing how malleable the deck is as well. Like you're seeing some like innovation in it, where like Ross's original version of the deck when he played it in SCG Vegas, he had which I can't remember which land. I think he had the blue-black land, so he could cast black card out of a sideboard, where nowadays you're seeing some other people like Ely had green in the sideboard for Ancient Grudge. We've seen white, we've seen like a Hollowed Fountain in the deck, so they could play, I'm literally just blanking on this card. Oh my God.
Stony Silence.
Yeah, Stony Silence. I almost said Ancient Stirrings. So they could just take Stony Silence out of their sideboard. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather still. And, you're starting to see all these, like, the facts that it doesn't hurt the deck to have this one dual land in it, and then you could play these super haymakers out of their sideboard. And it's like you said, they're playing all of these cantrips, and the deck has so many cantrips in it that you're gonna see 30 cards a game. And if you have 2 or 3 copies of a card in your deck, you're gonna see that card on average. And there are some cards in Modern that if you cast Stony Silence against KCI and they don't have an answer to it, the game ends immediately. Like the game is over, and your clock is fast enough to make that game be over in the next turn or two. So,
yep.
That's what's good in Modern. If you have a hate card, you need to kill your damn opponent very quickly afterwards as well. So,
right. And
right.
Kind of interesting too is, since the Graveyard Hate has really become a lot of surgicals more than anything else, a card like Pyromancer's Ascension gets a lot better when people are just like, kind of attacking your graveyard, very intent, just one card at a time instead of just trying to attack it at all with cards like Rest in Peace or Tormod's Crypt or Ravenous Trap instead.
There's some really cool things that you can do with Surgical Extraction in Modern right now. There's a very cool match that happened that was on camera. Brad's match, I think it was round 4 or 5 that y'all were on camera, and Devin Kepke was playing the Phoenix deck. And there's this turn where Kepke make this really good play. And I remember watching it and I'm like, they need their opponent to cast Surgical out of their hand so that they can Izzet Charm the Surgical, countering it, keeping their Phoenixes in the yard, but it made the Phoenixes come back that turn, which was really cool because they were trying to find like enough damage to kill them that turn. But during the turn, they saw their opponent's hand because they Surgicaled out of their own hand, where there's like really cool things you can do with Surgical, but besides taking your opponent's cards. In the Phoenix deck, you can get a ton of extra damage by using Surgical to remove a card that you have a 1 of in your graveyard and a 3 of in your deck, by removing them from the game, pumping your Crackling Drake by a ton, because this adds 4 more power to it. It can trigger Prowess, and it could be the 3rd spell to get back your Phoenix in a turn. So, like, I have actually seen I saw Ross do it, where he Surgical Extraction in a turn for something like 8 extra damage or 9 extra damage in a turn, just for paying 2 life and not actually paying mana. And I was like, there are some really sweet things you can do with this card, and there's a reason why they're like $30 a piece now.
They're more than that. I think.
Are they
like 40?
Are they at 40 a piece? I remember when they were like 2.
It's actually insane.
So essentially, we're at a point where I think the top decks are pretty decided now. I don't think it's a big question. Amulet, KCI, Arclight, Bant Spirits, Dredge. I think these are the 5 decks you should be playing.
Agreed.
At every tournament.
I still think Bant Spirits is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I think it's the potential worst of those 5
at
the moment. But obviously, it's still fine. You're kind of playing these linear decks, and I mean, even though Bant Spirits has ways to quote unquote interact, just kind of doing its own linear thing instead. So we do have Worcester this weekend. This is kind of what we're gonna wrap up on a little bit. Brad, Tannen, is there any spoiler that you're really interested in? We'll talk about it more next week when we have more of the spoilers. We're at 113 out of 259 right now, so next week we'll probably have almost all of them, if not all of them.
My boy Domri.
Your boy Domri.
Yeah, my boy Domri. I'm taking it. I know it's your boy. Other than that, like maybe the Black-White Wrath, the card's like black, white, right, destroy all creatures, you gain life equal to all of your own creatures destroyed this way. Because if there's enough good, cheap creatures with Aftermath, and you have that card in a creature deck versus another creature deck, you are at a severe advantage in that spot. What about you, Brad? Do you have any card that you're in love with?
Yeah, I'm disappointed that you guys are doing my boy Mystic Snake dirty like that.
Oh yeah, the fundamental
there
reprint
is
on
no,
this.
there is no Mystic Snake. It's not called Mystic Snake. It's called
It's
Frilled Mystic.
He's a lizard wizard.
It is it's an elf lizard wizard, actually.
That is some alliteration at its best, boys. But
Yes. I think at this point the
It's actually not
Wizards
alliteration,
might
I'm
be
just
trying to meme us just a little bit. So I am excited about Domri for sure. But before Domri got spoiled, the card that I was really excited about was Rhythm of the Wild.
which one's that one?
That's the Fires the Yavimaya.
Oh,
Creature
yeah,
spells you
yeah.
control can't be countered. Non-token creatures you control have a Riot. That card was the card that like kind of stuck out the most to me. But now that Domri's been printed, Domri and I go way
Yeah.
back. I think if there's a thing, something to get me off of Teferi, it's probably the Domri Fires of Yavimaya deck because there are just so many really good
Yo,
creatures.
just play
I don't know if
Teferi.
you know this, but I can imagine somebody sitting, some control player holding Settle the Wreckage in their hand. They're ready to give me the business,
The
as they so
business.
call it. And, I have the Fires of Yavimaya, and I'm like, oh, here's a Gruul Spellbreaker. And they're like, oh. And I go, Riot my Gruul Spellbreaker. Also, Riot for having Rhythm in play, because it stacks.
Mhm.
Go ahead and I'm going to attack you for 4. Nice Settle.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna play the Teferi decks, I'm pretty sure you should be splashing black for Mortify anyway, so you can answer that card. So there you go. Just Mortify it.
Oh, yep, absolutely. I mean, that is something that is probably
Gonna start
probably
happening.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely Wizards is really designing Standard very well. They're not just designing this enchantment that's unbeatable. They're also
Mhm.
having Mortify with it. The Planeswalkers that they built are these Planeswalkers that you have to build a specific deck around. Domri, you need like 26 creatures in your deck to make it good.
The old school
Dovin
Domri,
also-
yeah.
Yeah, Dovin also needs a bunch of creatures, to kind of make it a little bit better. And there's a lot of very interesting deck building decisions, and
Mhm.
I'm going to be very excited to really sit down and build. I've been talking nonstop in the Nova chat about all the different decks that I want to build and what cards I like and where my brain's going. So I think I can't wait. I'm very excited. Brad, you're going to Worcester. Tannen, you're going to Worcester. I'm not. I'm skipping it. It's way too hard for me to get to. I have to fly and then take an hour train ride in, and then I have to leave early so I can try and make it back Sunday night to be able to get.
I'm doing all that, by the way.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely terrible.
I
I'm
will say
off
this.
it.
So I've only been to Worcester once, and I was only there for a very short amount of time. So
Yeah,
I
weird.
don't have. Yeah, I know, right? I don't have much in the way to say about food in Worcester. So
Yeah.
maybe you guys have a better one. But I will say this: if we're at the same site that we were at last time, the only thing that stood out to me is we went across the street to this little Mexican cantina that was there for lunch after we promptly got eliminated from the tournament, and that place was gas. So
Yeah,
that place was
place
actually
is
pretty
very
good. Their tequila was
it's
amazing.
Yeah, but it is very busy. So do keep that in mind that there's
Call
a
it in.
chance that you will end up waiting because it does get very busy, but it is worth it. I love that place. But overall, Worcester's food options are very medium. You might have to drive a few blocks or walk several blocks into the city to get to some better food. But overall, it's just not great. But Tannen, what are you playing this weekend? What are you thinking about playing this weekend? What would you recommend for people to play?
Well,
And Brad, I'm going to ask you the same as well.
I've been thinking about it, especially since I didn't get to play this weekend. I've been doing a lot of soul searching, a lot of praying on the subject, and every time I keep praying to the Karn Father. Just keep hoping to God to have my turn 3 Karns, and as long as he keeps bestowing his blessings on me, I don't know why I should ever stray. So
Absolutely.
Tron.
What about you, Brad?
I'm playing Tron, boys. I'm all in.
I have a feeling we're getting
Call.
trolled here, yeah,
I'm not
Call.
playing. Why would I play Tron?
because it's
Call.
good.
Yeah.
That would be ridiculous. Okay, I'm gonna play a real deck. Okay, I'm gonna
No,
play.
you're not. You're
one
probably
with
going to play
Steam
Dead
Vents.
Shadow.
Wow,
Yeah,
don't
you're-
you talk about Death
No,
Shadow
he's definitely
like that.
playing
You take
Phoenix.
that back right now.
Definitely playing
Dead,
Phoenix.
Dead Shadow sucks.
I'll probably pull the trigger on Phoenix. I'm gonna try Harlan's version 2 with like a bunch of mutagenic growths and Swift Spears, just because that sounds awesome, especially in the mirror. That just sounds unbeatable. And then I'm probably gonna try Ely's list to see how good that is. And then if not, I know my Gerdad's in my corner, just hanging out ready with a stubby
yeah.
D.
You zombie fishes. Gonna
Zombie
sleep with the
fish story.
zombie fishes.
If I was going this weekend, I would do one of two things. I would either play Arclight and I would probably just play Harlan's List because Harlan's List looked really good. I'd probably make a couple changes to it, but I really like the way it looked and played out this weekend. Or I would play KCI, but in my KCI sideboard, I would do something a little interesting. And I don't really want to get too much into this, but if I were to play KCI again this weekend, I would have 3 Thought-Knot Seers in my sideboard.
I like it. I like it.
You're not gonna play Fabricate. How do you feel about Fabricate?
Oh, wow.
Fabergé?
I don't know
Fabergé?
if you know this, but for the same cost of Fabricate, you can play Psy, and Psy actually wins the game. I don't know
Ooh.
if you knew that, Brad.
Ooh,
Interesting.
that's very true.
Yeah. It's
I don't
kind of
appreciate
weird.
Sometimes when you're young, Rudy, you make mistakes.
Well, I'm not really young anymore, but thank you, Brad.
I haven't been young in a very long time, so
For those wondering, I believe Austin Collins tried to battle with it.
That wasn't from him. It was a Collins Mullins idea, I believe.
Okay.
They played 2. They decided that 2 was a little too much, but they really did enjoy 1. So it's like kind of interesting. You just kind of maybe want a 5th KCI, but I'm not too big of a fan. I think Psy is just incredible. Psy is a card that just wins the game on its own, regardless of whether or not, and when you're actually comboing off with KCI, it makes your combo turns significantly easier because you always have access to like free mana.
Mm-hmm. No, it doesn't sound terrible to me. I mean, like any card that gets the namesake card out of the deck, right? Or like finds you some stuff to keep going, like sounds good to me. Like always find a piece you need. So, yeah, about that.
Yep,
Brad,
that's fair. So
if people wanted to find you and talk to you or email you or ask for coaching or watch your stream, how would they do that?
You can find me on, and any day I'm not traveling to an SCG, you can find me on twitch.tv/Brad Barigmos, Enraged. You can also find me on Twitter at Brad Barigmos. And then you can also reach me at my Gmail. It's my personal business Gmail. It's thetanagrace@gmail.com. And yeah, it's you can also find me on this podcast.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
all right, that's interesting.
Surprised.
Hey, Brad, if somebody wanted to find Tannen,
God.
do you think we should?
No, I'm gonna do it myself.
Where should they find Tannen, Brad? Can you help us with that?
Not in Columbus.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
I couldn't make it. The-
I know. I was
I
actually
did.
there. Dude, it was so miserable. I took 2 planes and then a 2.5-hour car ride to get there because I couldn't fly into Columbus. I had to fly into Pittsburgh. It was brutal.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was just a brutal weekend, and I was just throwing up the entire time. It was awesome. So, anyway, you can find me on Twitter at @TannenGrace. It should be on the screen right under my face, right there. There you go. If you're watching on Twitch, because we do this live every week. If you wanted to contact me, you can do it on there, or you can contact me at my Gmail. It's just tannengrace@gmail.com. I do offer some coaching, doing some more this week. Really looking forward to getting back into that. Hadn't done it in a few days, whatever. And my students have been doing pretty well, honestly, lately too. So I'm pretty excited about that. And if you ever wanted to watch me play Magic, I stream pretty often. I haven't in the last like 5-ish days because I've been sick and I've been traveling. So I have the same kind of thing that Brad was saying. If I'm traveling, it's a lot harder for me to stream because I just can't. So whenever I'm not traveling, look for me to stream. That's just at Tannen Grace on Twitch. Rudy, if someone wanted to find you, where would they look?
They can't. I don't exist.
He's an
but if-
enigma.
Ooh,
Wrapped inside a riddle.
Enigma Drake. Okay.
Oh,
Look,
God.
like Crackling Drake Sasser.
Yeah. He was in here earlier.
Well, Crackling Drake Sasser is great. But if you are interested in finding me, you can find me at twitch.tv/NotoriousBZA. You can find me on Twitter at the Notorious BZA as well. You can feel free to email me if you want to. It's friendrudy@gmail.com. And if you're interested in getting coaching, I do that. Please feel free to email me. I do some coaching. I love it. I would love to do more. And I think I'm reasonably good at it because I'm generally good at communication, even though sometimes on this podcast it doesn't sound like it. But that's just how you can find me. If you are interested in supporting Grinders Cast MTG, there are a bunch of different ways to do it. Feel free to join our Discord. You can hit !Discord or !Podcast and mine, Tannen's, or Brad's Twitch chats. You can go ahead and check out our Twitter page, which is Grinders Cast MTG. And you can, there's a link to the Discord in that Twitter. If you're also interested in supporting us monetarily, we do have a Patreon. For our patrons, we do send signed tokens to them. And if you are a $5 or up patron, if you just give us the minimum, which is $1, we do have a special patron channel in our Discord, which you can use to get closer access to Brad, Tannen, and I. We always post our deck list before tournaments. We always say what we're playing. So if you always want to get a heads up on what's going on, what we're doing, and maybe you can use that for your own tournament that weekend, especially, if you're not somebody who likes to travel, but you have local modern, standard, or legacy tournaments. It's pretty active. People are always asking questions. We have a really nice community in there. The community is always growing. So please, we'd love to have you join us, and we hope to see you soon. But I think that's going to do that for us. For this is episode 63. This is episode 63.
So many episodes.
That's so many episodes. You know what, Brad? We're owning.
We're owning.
It's gonna be real nice in a few episodes. Real nice.
Wow. Yeah, we're gonna have a real nice episode. We're just not gonna do it. We're just gonna hang out and talk for like an hour. No magic.
Are you talking about episode 420?
Yes, that is
Shut
the
up.
episode that is coming up soon. Episode 420. Just go ahead and check that out. But thanks everyone for joining us this week, and we will catch everyone next week after Worcester. If you're in Worcester, please say hi to Brad and Tannen. They'd be more than happy to see, and I believe they have Grinders Cast tokens as well, so you can grab one from either of them.
Mm-hmm. I might actually show up for the event too and play.
It's
Probably
might actually. Tannen might actually be around for more than 2 rounds.
Yeah, and if you're in town the night before the event, like if you're in town on Friday night and you're looking for something to do, I believe we're going to TJ's, I think is what it's called, for the local BCW event. I might not be at the BCW event because my flight doesn't get in until late that night, because I just don't have a lot of options from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to get into Boston earlier than that. But make sure you go out there, check it out. Go to play against other BCW members, get some free packs of sleeves, some free swag, and just, TJ's in Milford. There we go. Good job. TJ's in Milford, Mass. There we go. Park in the back. Street parking sucks, apparently. So but make sure you show up, get to play against Ross Merriam, Jim Davis, or the newly minted BCW member, Dylan Hand. And might I say some very fine gentlemen. So maybe possibly the best looking team on the BCW, on the SCG tour. So you can go over there, get your free stuff, get some bragging rights, get a little tournament practice in before the event, or just get some stuff signed, or just, give Jim a high five. Because just make sure you don't hit him too hard, though. He's fragile. They get fragile when they get older.
Team Bacub is if you're interested in trying to score a free win, try to get there later before it closes, because that'll be a lot past their bedtime.
Oh, way past.
Worse.
Yeah, way past their bedtime. Like Jim starts getting cranky. He needs a warm glass of milk. I don't. It's pretty rough. I'm usually taking a nap in the corner.
Yeah. But anyway, that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see everyone next time.
Peace.
I love you, boys.
Goober, thank you very much. Missed a few things here. Goober, thanks for the sub. Warlock, thanks for the sub. I think that's about it that went on during the thing. Thanks everybody for sticking around in the chat. Y'all are all awesome. Brad, are you going to stream like right now? Or are you going to wait?
No, I'm going to nap. I am exhausted.
Yeah, all right. Let me find somebody. Oh my God, I started getting really bad feedback.
I'm going to bounce for a little bit, but...
Let me find somebody to host here. Rudy, damn it,
man,
don't turn your camera off yet. God.
Look how big I am.
Why?
You just messed up the screen.
It looks so good.
It's fine. The screen's over. It's over.
All right, hold on. Bam.
All right, see you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Hold on. Bam. All right. So everybody, we're gonna find somebody to host here. Who are we gonna host? Thanks, Teddy. See you later, Trudon. Let's see. Send you guys over to somebody to watch, guys and gals. Oh, should host that Tan and Grace fella. He's really cool. Let's see who's on right now. Team Lotus Box is on. I could host Team Lotus Box. Let's do that. Let's host Team Lotus Box. They're pretty cool people.
Okay, so I look at our library. Fetch it away no matter.
That's so loud. Tim, I like the way you think. You and me both at the same time. All right, everybody stuck around and watched the whole thing. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. See y'all probably tomorrow. I'll probably be back streaming tomorrow and stuff. So have a good night. See y'all later.